seems to me that nothing will ever be enough for the evil in this world. Our country has become unrecognizable. These people have perverted the truth to the point that they motivated the murder of my husband. They have continuously tried to assassinate the president, and anyone who stands in their way is labeled hateful, racist, fascist, and every other trigger word that is grossly dishonest. We want the best for our country. They don't. This is why Charlie started Turning Point USA in the first place. He didn't trust the radicalized liberal teachers. And this past Saturday, it was a school teacher, of all people, a school teacher, that attempted to change our history for the worst with bullets. And everyone is asking why I even went to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And it was because many of the journalists in that room have attempted to dehumanize me, and I wanted to meet some of them face to face, quite frankly. Why have a conversation about me when you can have a conversation with me? So, for example, a journalist from the Daily Mail came up to me. She introduced herself, and she was very gracious. She was saying, "You look so beautiful. I'm so sorry for your loss." To which I replied, "It is so nice to put a name to the face, especially with all of the slander, the lies, accusations that are out there surrounding my husband's murder and myself." And I said to her, "You know what's so interesting? This is my first time at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and I find it so fascinating, the dynamic that is going on right now, because everyone is all dressed up, and you guys are co-mingling in and out of each other's cocktail parties. And so for one night, you are able to put aside all of your differences for the sake of freedom of speech. And then by Monday morning, things will go back to being an absolute bloodbath between all of you." To which she replied, literally, she said, "I know. Isn't it special, right? Isn't tonight so special?" And following that conversation, it was time to take our seats, and we went into the big ballroom where the dinner was. And one of the first things I noticed when I walked into that room was quite literally the proximity of the opposing outlets to one another. So you have one table here that's Politico, and another table here that's Fox, and another table here that's WAPO, and you're all crammed together, elbow to elbow. And to make the night even more of a spectacle, every single 10-person table had 10 bottles of wine. And the president of the White House Correspondents Association, she did a great job of trying to make the evening have that feeling of Americana. You know, we were in a room celebrating freedom of speech despite our differences. And the U.S. Marine Band performed the national anthem so beautifully. And then shortly thereafter, gunshots rang out and total chaos ensued. And you guys have all seen what happened next because there are 1,000 videos of it. So let's discuss that fact for a second. If you were in that room, you had no way of knowing what the status of the shooter was, how many there were, or honestly, really anything. It was just utter chaos. And so during an active shooting, these journalists are using their phones to find moments to capture for clips. They were so concerned about getting a video in a room with an active shooter that they could have accidentally and quite literally filmed themselves being shot. Many of those people have become so desensitized that fight or flight became secondary to the opportunity of putting themselves into the story, which ironically breaks the #1 rule of journalism. And again, ironically enough, the shooter was a teacher. You have these people who are supposed to be teaching our children the future of this country, and he's so unhinged that he is able to teach children by day and then attempt to murder the president of the United States by night. And in his manifesto, he starts by contextualizing himself by saying, "I am a citizen of the United States of America." And while we may have big problems with illegal immigration in this country, I have to tell you, we have an even bigger problem when it comes to the systemic indoctrination and radicalization of our own citizens. This is what got my husband killed. This is what has led to 3 legitimate attempts on President Trump's life. And I can speak firsthand to that unbearable toll that this must take on our First Lady. There has never been a president who has faced this many assassination attempts in Americans' entire history. And after each one, the reaction from the far left has been, at best, a shrug, and in some cases, a sick disappointment that the shooter was unsuccessful. We are all human beings. And if you can just pause and just take a minute and ask yourself, how would you feel if even just one person made cruel jokes about the attempted murder of your loved one? That is what Jimmy Kimmel did to the First Lady. He said that she had the glow of an expected widow. The glow of an expected widow. Just 48 hours before that nightmare almost became a reality. In this culture we're living in, absorbs disagreement as a form of personal betrayal. It turns having an opposing viewpoint into a moral crime worthy of punishment. And here's what I've realized through all of this, truly, having lived through quite literal hell these past 7 months, if you strip someone of their humanity long enough, you will arrive at the chilling conclusion that they don't deserve to exist at all. Every morning I wake up to a new headline lying about me. I have comedians dressing up in whiteface. I have people saying I'm not fit to be CEO. And I have Candace Owens claiming I murdered my husband. And the list goes on and on and on. There is a serious epidemic of dehumanization plaguing this country. The most unthinkable tragedies have now become commonplace in our daily headlines, and yet the media finds a way to conveniently explain away violence. This is what we're up against. This is what we're up against. What is happening right now is something none of us can afford to ignore. The evil forces working to divide us, to distract us, and to pull us apart has never been stronger. This is a moment for Americans to come together and decide what kind of country we are going to be before we lose our country altogether. In Romans chapter 12, verse 21, it says, "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." And this is why my husband created Turning Point USA, so we could have civil discourse and debate and open dialogue, because when we stop talking to each other, bad things happen. I am choosing to fight for America, for my children, for your children, and for our humanity, because we all need to do our part. And by the grace of God, we will succeed, and America will remain what she was always called to be, a shining city on a hill, a light to the world. So let me give you a perfect example of how it's done. My husband did it best and left us the blueprint on how to have uncomfortable conversations with those who disagree. Buckle up, everybody. Here we go.